Hello, welcome to Just the Dis. My name is Brian, and we talk about Blu-rays here. And in this video, I'm going to be going through some of the November releases from Kino. Just a spotlight on some that I thought looked interesting or watched and enjoyed. And so let me get into this here. We'll start with Homebodies. This is from 1974. This is a lower budget horror comedy, sort of. Interesting movie in that I remember reading about it first in Danny Perry's Guide for the Film Fanatic and hearing about this story of a group of older folks who are living in a condemned tenement building, and they are told to vacate because a developer is coming in and putting up a $50 million new apartment building for more affluent folks to live in. They've offered to relocate these older folks to basically an old folks home, but they aren't having any of it. And they start to kill people. They start to go ahead and knock off some folks involved with the construction and see if they can slow down and or stop the process. And it kind of goes from there. But it is a really interesting movie in that I'll show you it has this nice slip, and then it has this artwork, and then another artwork like that. I think this one probably represents the movie a little better. It looks kind of silly, whereas this looks like a straight horror movie, right? They're definitely trying to sell the horror side of things. And it's a little more low-key than that, because it takes a while to get to the killings, really, and it's more about the drama between the old folks as they're dealing with these other people. And, it's an interesting cast. I don't recognize too many of these actors. I guess Ian Wolfe maybe is the one that I recognize the most. He looks a little bit like Hume Cronin. That's him right in the middle there. But it's a good cast of older actors, and it's an enjoyable movie. It is absurd at times. It is alarming in its violence in moments, but overall interesting and fun to watch, I think. And a movie that I don't believe has had much of a release history on home video. I know it's been on VHS. And in listening to a little bit of the commentary track we get here with director Larry Yust, who is effectively the writer-director, even though there's another couple writers credited. He said they tossed out the other script and just took the concept, and he wrote the script. So anyway, he was kind of saying that he made the film on a pretty low budget, and that it's I want to see more of his stuff, actually. There's also an interview with the producer on here. And he had mentioned that he had gotten it was produced by Joseph E. Levine, I think, or Avco Embassy, it says Cinema and Entertainment Corporation, but I think Joseph E. Levine was involved, and he, of course, had produced The Graduate, and they brought him over to Cannes, I guess he and maybe his wife, and then I think they ended up not releasing the movie. It was unclear how much of a release the movie even got. So I think the life of the film may have been limited mostly to VHS viewings, and it was a rare VHS tape. It was really hard to find forever. And then maybe some cable viewings, I guess. I don't know. So this one's kind of been off people's radars for a long time, and I just think it's neat when a movie like this reemerges, if you will. So this has got a new, it doesn't say it's a new scan, but it's a 185 transfer, and it looks pretty good. It's clearly a lower budget film, but just excited to have this one for Danny Perry purists alone, who are like, I want to see Homebodies, but I've never been able to see it because it's been so difficult to get my hands on. Now you can check out Homebodies. Next up, we have one from Kino and Scorpion. This is number 1. And as you can see, it stars Charlton Heston, Jessica Walter, Also stars John Randolph and Bruce Dern. And it's, I don't know, I'm a huge fan of Heston in general for whatever reason. Not necessarily his politics, but just in terms of as an actor, I think he did a lot of interesting stuff. The big stuff that people remember, and then the oddballs things like The Awakening or Omega Man or, Motherlode, these sort of lesser seen movies. And this is one of the lesser seen ones that I think he's well cast. And it's a tough character because he plays this guy named, what's his name? Ron the Cat Catlin. And he plays as a quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. And he is aging, and basically the team is sort of ready to retire him. But he's not necessarily ready to quit. And so he's sort of struggling with that. He's struggling with a younger quarterback who's trying to sort of knock him out of position, and he's struggling with his wife, played by Jessica Walter, and their relationship. And he's also got a buddy played by Bruce Dern, who used to be, I think, a tight end for the team, but has since either gotten injured and retired or just straight up quit and took his money and has some kind of I want to say like an RV deal, not an RV dealership, but some kind of maybe a used car dealership or something. And an auto leasing company, excuse me. And he's sort of telling Heston's character, he's like, hey man, you got to get out. It's not a big deal. Look, I'm doing fine, that sort of thing. And so it's sort of a midlife crisis kind of man entering his twilight years kind of movie. And I guess I respond to those, and it's a sports movie. So it's cool because there's a little bit of on the field stuff. The movie kind of ends with some on the field stuff, but a lot of it is sort of the behind the scenes, the business side of football. And I always enjoy that sort of peek behind the curtain, if you will, too. So a good football movie, doesn't have any extras at all, except the trailer, I guess. But, transfer looks good, and I'm really glad to have this on Blu-ray because it's not been on Blu-ray before. So that's number one. And it's directed by Tom Grise, excuse me. Who I want to say I have 2 more movies from. No, just one more. We have Breakheart Pass, which was also directed by Tom Grise. And this one, of course, stars the great Charles Bronson. It has Ben Johnson, Richard Crenna, Jill Ireland, Charles Durning, Ed Lauter, David Huddleston, who is Lebowski in The Big Lebowski. Not the dude, but the actual Lebowski. And so it has a nice slipcase. This one they put out before, but they are re-releasing it here. And it doesn't mention a new scan, but they have added an audio commentary with Howard S. Berger, Steve Mitchell, and Nathaniel Thompson. And this one says, screen legend Charles Bronson is at his dynamic, heroic best in this suspenseful, action-packed mystery western based on the best-selling novel by Alistair MacLean. Now, Alistair MacLean, of course, they mention here, his work was adapted into Where Eagles Dare, When Eight Bells Toll. Oh, man, there's a bunch more, and of course I'm blanking on all of them right now. And it talks about the cast a little bit here. Ed Lauter's great in this, by the way. I love Ed Lauter. Breakheart Pass throws open the throttle for runaway excitement. At the height of a frontier era, a locomotive races along the Rocky Mountains on a classified mission to a remote army post, but one by one the passengers are being murdered. Their only hope is John Deacon Bronson, a mysterious prisoner in transit who must fight for his life and the lives of everyone on the train as he uncovers a deadly secret that explodes in a torrent of shocking revelations, explosive brawls, and blazing gun battles. Now, a lot of Alistair MacLean's stuff ends up going into that sort of mystery / spy / espionage kind of area, and I do think it's interesting to have it in a Western context like this. But a good Bronson movie and underseen, I think. Bronson film that not everybody talks about. So a nice release or re-release of that. And then one more Western here I haven't had a chance to check out yet, but I'm very curious about. He'd been cheated out of his gold and his woman. Now the only weapon he had left was revenge. And this is George Peppard in One More Train to Rob. This is a Code Red Kino release. And it's from Andrew V. McLaughlin, who did a ton of stuff. Director of Shenandoah, The Rare Breed, The Way West, Devil's Brigade, Folks, and The Wild Geese. He also did Hellfighters with John Wayne, which is a firefighter movie I really like. Let's see here. This rousing Western comedy starring George Peppard, Harker Fleet, and compatriots Timothy X. Nolan. And let's see here. Compatriots Timothy X. Nolan and Katie, along with 3 other men, steal $40,000 in money and jewelry from a train in the 1880s gold mining country. The 6 split up, and while they are hiding out, await the rendezvous to divide the loot. Harker is cornered, framed, and sent to prison. He is released after 2.5 years and sets out to settle the score with Katie and Nolan and get his share of the loot. Featuring Franz Nguyen, Steve Sandor, legendary stuntman director Hal Needham, and Western great Harry Carey Jr. in supporting roles. So a little Hal Needham in here. That's great. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out. Is that John Vernon? Very nice. So that's One More Train to Rob, another Western. Then we have a bunch of older films, so stick with me here, folks. This one I'm considering a new discovery for me, like a favorite discovery. Night Has 1,000 Eyes. This is directed by John Farrow. I've talked about him a lot on the channel. A great director of noir and father, I believe, to Mia Farrow. And this one has Edward G. Robinson, Gail Russell, and John Lund. And it's pretty cool, I gotta say. Maybe a little Twilight Zone before Twilight Zone, in that we have a movie with... Initially, there's a little bit of a Nightmare Alley vibe to it, because, I mean, there's an opening setup, and then basically Edward G. Robinson telling his tale in flashback. And the flashback has to do with basically he used to be part of a mind-reading act, which is the part that reminds me of Nightmare Alley, where they'd have, like, you know, a bunch of people write questions on paper and put them in envelopes. They'd put it in a bowl on stage. They'd bring the bowl up on the stage, and he would never touch the envelopes. He would just answer the questions and tell people about themselves, and they never told anybody how they did the act. And that was actually kind of neat, in that I thought at some point they would be like, okay, this is how we did it, you know, like somebody's under the stage, or they never tell. And what starts to happen is that he plays the mentalist guy. His name's Triton. And he starts to have these visions, these real visions of people in peril. They're always somebody in trouble, always somebody about to die or to be hurt badly. And so he starts having these moments on stage where he's just like, oh, miss, you have to go home to your son right now. Your house is on fire, or something like that. And so it's one of those things where he starts to have them and he doesn't really know what to think of them, doesn't know if they're real or not. And then he starts to discover that, yes, in fact, they are real. And he starts to wonder, is he causing them to happen? And so he has some major things that he foresees with people that he is close to, that forces him to sort of go into hiding in hopes that he can, you know, help not be responsible for what might happen to them. But he ends up sort of dealing with that later. I don't want to give that part away, but there's a part of it where he's desperately trying to save a woman's life, and he is trying to avoid her, fulfilling the prophecy that he has foreseen. And it's a very, dark kind of thing. It's based on Cornell Woolrich, which is where we get, like, Rear Window and stuff like that. So it's well written and has that, is it supernatural, is it not, kind of quandary within it. And I totally dug that. It's a new 2K master, and it has a commentary from the great film historian Imogen Sarah Smith, and it's an excellent track. And so overall, just a high recommend for that one. Next, we have Secret of the Blue Room. I had heard of this one. This is from 1933. It's only 66 minutes, which I love. Has Lionel Atwill, Paul Lucas, and Gloria Stewart. And this one has to do with a secret room in this house. As it says here, a deadly secret from the past returns to haunt a young woman and her loved ones in the secret of the Blue Room. Irene von Heldorf's 21st birthday celebration is eclipsed when her father shares the dark details of his estate's guest room. 20 years earlier, 3 people were killed there, and the murders remain unsolved. Hoping to prove their own bravery and win Irene's love, each of her 3 suitors agrees to spend the night in the room, and a new string of deadly mysteries is set into motion. And this one has a commentary from filmmaker historian Michael Schlesinger, and it's a delightfully chilling pre-code murder mystery. Yeah, it's fun, from the director of the original Fly. It's, again, 66 minutes, very breezy, and a fun little pre-code to see Gloria Stewart in. Then we have The Spider-Woman Strikes Back. This one, of course, stars the unforgettable Rondo Hatton. And it's an interesting one. It's about a woman who is, I guess she's had some kind of a near breakdown from where she was living, and she ends up moving back to her old hometown, and she gets a job helping this woman out at her big old house with her creepy assistant dude played by Rondo, and she's staying there at the house, and they start like giving her milk at night, and she starts sleeping very heavily. You kind of know where this is going. Some creepy stuff starts happening, and I don't want to give away too much more than that, but it is a weird, atmospheric, mysterious movie in terms of what is happening and why it's happening. And yeah, it's fun. It's got I mean, they're saying it says Gail Sondergaard from The Cat and the Canary returns as the sinister Spider-Woman, a role she originated as the femme fatale Andrea Spedding in the Sherlock Holmes whodunit The Spider-Woman. In this non-canonical spin-off, she is even more diabolical. And I don't want to talk about anything else. I really think it's one you need to see. And if you like Rondo, he doesn't have a line in this movie, but he's always a presence that adds atmosphere to a movie like this, and he's very good. And this has an audio commentary from Tom Weaver and David Schechter. Mistress of Menace and Murder, The Making of Spider-Woman Strikes Back, a documentary short featuring interviews with C. Courtney Joyner, Rick Baker, and Fred Olen Ray, and others. So this movie has a bit of a following, and 59 minutes, another shorty, and it's got good atmosphere to it. And then this one I didn't get to check out yet, but I'm definitely curious about. It stars Basil Rathbone, Ellen Drew, and John Howard, The Mad Doctor. And this is from 1940, 90 minutes. Death lurked in his hypnotic eyes in the nerve-jangling thriller The Mad Doctor. The great Basil Rathbone is Dr. George Sebastian, a smooth and sinister physician manservant who woos, weds, and murders several of his wealthy women patients for their fortunes. Aided by his demented manservant, he sets up a Park Avenue psychiatry practice and effects an apparent miraculous cure for troubled heiress Linda Booth, that's Ellen Drew, who he makes his 4th wife. Can the suspicious Dr. Downer, Ralph Morgan, and Linda's ex-fiancé foil Sebastian's schemes and save Linda before it's too late? Rathbone is splendid as the diabolically debonair doctor in this psychological chiller from director Tim Whelan and cinematographer Ted Tetzlaff. Audio commentary by David Del Val. And this one sounds like a nice Bluebeardy, notorious-y kind of thing. And then last, I sort of saved a couple of my favorites for the last. And there's 3 really nice W.C. Fields comedies that Kino's putting out, and I'm so excited about these. And this is the first of the 3, and it's my favorite, and it may be, I have said it on occasion, my favorite comedy of all time. And I know that's a bold statement, but this is a movie that has made me laugh since I first saw it many years ago and continues to make me laugh every single time I watch it. It is my favorite W.C. Fields film, obviously, and it features him as this henpecked husband, which is, I think a lot of people think of him as this sort of, brash, obnoxious type. very confident, My Little Chickadee sort of vibes. And he played these henpecked husbands more often than people, I think, remember. And I really love him in these roles. And so this one, he plays a guy who's henpecked. He has a general store. He finds out through his wife that her uncle has died and they've inherited some money. So and he's bought some California orange groves, which may be worthless. So they're going to move the whole family out to California. But the structure of this film is not too much like any that you see today, in that it is a lot of W.C. Fields' comedy sketches sort of strung together around this plot. And, just have like a scene where he's in the bathroom trying to shave, and his daughter comes in and steps in front of him in front of the mirror. He's trying to look around her. He can't see her. He tries, to find another way to shave. And it's a silent, no dialogue kind of scene. And it's just very funny. A lot of the comedy is based on people like annoying each other. And there's a great scene with some folks at the general store, one guy who really wants some kumquats, and a blind man who keeps knocking stuff over and is incredibly obnoxious. And so you have these really long set pieces, one where W.C. Fields is trying to take a nap on the sort of back patio of their, their tenement building, their apartment building. It's kind of rural looking. And people keep making noise, whether it's a kid like bouncing a ball or a woman and her mother yelling down and up at each other about, whether they should get Ipecac or not, or some dude who's looking for a guy named Carl Lafong. He just cannot get to sleep. And so it's like you'll see these big chunks, and the movie's only 68 minutes. And so a lot of it is that stuff. But to me, like every time I watch it, there's just so many great little mannerisms and physical bits that he does that are just sublime, truly sublime as far as I'm concerned. And I can't recommend it enough. I know Joe Dante is actually one of the reasons I think I can't remember if he's one of the reasons I saw the movie or if I found out later he's a fan. I know Danny Perry covered this film in his books, and so I would have seen it that way. But I know Joe Dante is a huge fan of it, and so that was a big one for me to check it out or to recommend it to people, and always kind of offer that as a reason why. Don't take my word for it. Joe Dante loves this movie. And it has an audio commentary by film historian James L. Nabauer, author of the W.C. Fields films, and it's not a bad track. It's pretty good. So super nice to finally have this on Blu-ray. I couldn't be happier about it. So happy. And then another one of his classics, The Bank Dick. This came out on DVD from Criterion, and they've never picked up a Blu-ray release of it. So it's getting a Blu-ray, I believe, debut here. And this is another sort of henpecked husband movie. Comedy legend W.C. Fields stars in one of his most famous roles as the bank dick, Egbert Souzet. He loves, ridiculous names. That's one of his favorite things to do. Is an unemployed drunk who divides his time between the Black Pussycat Cafe and his dreadful family. After unwittingly capturing a bank robber, he lands a job as security guard, which leads to complete absurdity. Written by comedian himself and under the pseudonym Mahatma Kane Jeeves, or My Cane Jeeves. That's what that was supposed to be playing on. And directed by Edward F. Klein, who worked with Fields. The Bank Dick is one of the great classics of American comedy. Uproarious cast includes Una Merkel, Dick Purcell, Shemp Howard, Franklin Pangborn, Grady Sutton. This one's just so much fun. I like It's a Gift just a little bit more, but this is a fantastic comedy. Also includes a commentary, this one from film historian Michael Schlesinger, a great track as well. And then last but not least, we have The Old-Fashioned Way, which stars Baby Leroy, who is also in It's a Gift. And they had a weird rivalry where Baby Leroy and W.C. Fields would be in movies together, and usually consisted of Baby Leroy being annoying and messing with him. You can kind of see him like smacking Fields on the head on the back here. This one is battles creditors, widows, and obnoxious children in the rib-tickling classic The Old-Fashioned Way. Staying one step ahead of the law, the great McGonagall and his impoverished theatrical troupe arrive in a small town to perform The Drunkard, a Victorian temperance play. Discovering they have only sold a handful of tickets, McGonagall promises a part to the wealthy mother of an annoying toddler, Baby Leroy, with her appearance guaranteeing a sellout. Staving off the local sheriff who intends to collect the receipts, McGonagall gives a performance the town will never forget in an uproarious farce featuring Field's legendary juggling act. Hollywood veteran William Bodine directed this gag-filled salute to Field's early vaudeville days. And yeah, this one's, very, very funny as well. So many great Fields gags and great Fields physical comedy and verbal comedy. And yeah, I love the stage stuff, the acting troupe stuff. And he's just truly one of the great, you get a sense of why he's revered and heralded as one of the great comedic presences in cinema of all time. If you watch all three of these movies, you will not have any doubt in your mind. But I feel like if you watch even It's a Gift and The Bank Dick or this one, you really will get a sense of why he is known as he is. And this one brings back James L. Neubauer, author of W.C. Fields Films, for the commentary track. And it's also very good. And yeah, so I'm just really psyched to have these 3 Fields films on Blu-ray finally after so many years. And I hope we get even more. There's still stuff like Man on the Flying Trapeze and others that I'd love to get on Blue. So I do hope that this is an indication of maybe some more that are coming. Who knows? But that'll do it for this November spotlight on some wonderful stuff, wonderful and varied stuff. I always talk about Kino and how varied their releases are, especially since they brought on, not that they needed it, but the Code Red and Scorpion, that brings in even more interesting and quirky and unknown films to their release schedule. So there's always something interesting happening at Kino every single month. It's difficult to keep up with them for sure. But they do have sales several times a year. They just had one, and hopefully they'll have another one, early next year. Maybe we get lucky. Maybe they have one before the end of the year. But lots of great, interesting older films to check out here, as well as some 70s stuff that you might enjoy. Thank you for taking the time, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.